Alright, so what's going on guys, it's Green, and today I have a brand new tutorial for you. This tutorial is going to be on kind of like a 3D motion tracking screen replacement type deal. So kind of like what you've seen here. And basically what you're going to do is hop into Fortnite replay mode and find like a screen or a billboard, something that you want to replace in-game, maybe like some text on a sign or something like that. And then you're going to find it in replay mode and you're going to record a cinematic of it in really slow motion. So go to drone free, get your camera zoomed in however you want it to look, and then go over and turn the speed all the way down to 0.1 like I have here. You're going to disappear your HUD. I use a controller to record cinematics, but you can do it however is most comfortable for you. I recommend a controller because it's really easy to get nice clear movement, but that's just me. And yeah, basically all you're gonna do is go up nice and close and then start recording and then slowly drag your cinematic back, something like this. It's a nice clean, slick movement like that, so you can get lots of tracking points and stuff when you motion track. And then stop your recording and you'll have your cinematic saved. The next thing you're going to do is hop into After Effects. So I'm going to quickly do that and we'll take it from there. Alright, so I've already went ahead and dragged the clip into Adobe After Effects like we have here. Next thing we're going to do is pre-compose it. So to do that, you just simply click it, drag it down to this little icon here, and drop it, and it'll make it into a nice little pre-composed segment for you to use. And now what we're going to do is take it and we're going to cut off this little part at the beginning where you can see there's not really any movement. So to do that, you just drag to where the movement starts, and then now I can see it started moving backwards. I'm just going to press B on my keyboard. I'm going to go to the end, and right before it stops, I'm just going to go back a little bit and then press N on my keyboard. Now you can see the work area is over top of what we want to use. So what we're going to do is just right click the work area and click trim to comp, or trim comp to work area. And then bam, now our segment is perfectly cut to just the parts that we want to use. So the next thing that we're going to do is right click and go all the way to track camera down here. And what this is going to do is motion track the scene that we just cut the beginning and end of and in between here, and make a whole bunch of different little points that we can use to motion track whatever we're going to put on the TV. We're going to motion track it so it looks like it's actually in the game. That makes sense, right? Hopefully. Alright, so now it's done motion tracking, and you can see there's all these points all throughout the clip. If these points don't show up for you, make sure down here is on active camera, and then go over here to the 3D camera tracker and select it so that you can see all the points. And the first thing we're going to do is try and find a surface that's kind of flat with the front of the TV screen. So you can see all these bullseyes kind of make one. What I like to do is select a whole bunch of them, so you can just click and drag and then select all these different points, and it'll make a bullseye that's pretty accurate to the front of the television screen. So now what you're going to want to do is right click and click create solid and camera. So that's pretty easy. Now you can see we have this solid that's kind of flat with the TV, not exactly, but we can work with that. That's not too bad. So now we just want to get to a nice frame where we can see the solid and the TV pretty easily. Click on the solid, and we're gonna adjust it a little bit so that it is flat with the TV, or the part of the TV we want to use, like the screen basically. So we're going to press R for rotation and just kind of adjust these values as we see fit. I don't think I'm going to turn it. I'm going to turn it this way a little bit, tilt it up a little bit more until we've got a pretty decent screen going. So this looks pretty flat with the TV. I'm going to move it over. I'll make it a little bit smaller so I can see, and we're going to try and put it right in the beginning, or not the beginning, right in the middle of the screen. So something like this looks good. If I turn it back up to 100% now, you can see works pretty well. It's not bad. We also can maybe adjust it a little bit afterwards to get the sizing right. So right now I'll bring it down until it's small enough, and you can see that the top is going to be a little, since this is a square and the screen is not a square, we're gonna have to curve those edges a little bit, and basically just make it fit better. So it's a little wider than it is tall. So what we're gonna do is right click on the solid, click pre-compose, and we'll name this replace. So this is what we're gonna put in the actual game inside of this composition. So double click, we'll open that up, and we have our nice little solid here. So the first thing that I usually do is try and make it a similar size to the screen. So I'm gonna press Control K, which is going to bring up your composition settings. And now you take the height and we'll turn that down a little bit to make it kind of more closer to the aspect ratio of the television. So now you can see, click OK, and you can see that it's definitely wider than it is tall. Go back over here and take a look, and that fits the TV screen pretty well. That looks pretty good, but obviously it's not perfect. You can see we still have the screen is like an oval, while the thing is rectangular. So the next thing we're going to do is maybe make this a little bit bigger. Let's go up to like 85%, maybe even bigger than that. Let's go 90%, just so that it's covering every part of the screen that we are going to use. And you can just go from the beginning to the end, make sure that it's always covering the screen. There's no part of the screen that they can see. Okay, so we're gonna make the layer here invisible, the replace layer, and we're gonna draw a little mask of this television so that we can use it to better represent the screen, since obviously the screen isn't rectangular, the screen is just this round oval. So to do that, you're gonna click the pen tool up here, G, on the keyboard, or just click it up there, and then you're going to want to zoom in, so you can use the scroll wheel to do that. Press H on the keyboard or the hand tool up here just to kind of like drag yourself to the edge. Make sure you have the layer selected, and then draw a nice little oval around the television. Alright, so now that we're finished with our oval, we can click here, click fit up to 100%, which will bring your screen back. And you can see it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to represent it pretty well. And then we're just going to go over here, click back on our layer so we can see. And you can see that it lines up with the screen pretty well, but there's a few little mistakes and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is click on our layer once again, click M. It's important, we want to mask path. You want to make sure that you click that so that it locks this position, or this mask, in the position it's in. And then we're also going to double tap M, which is going to bring up all these other options. For feather, we're not going to do much, maybe 3, and that'll just kind of blur the edges and round it out a little bit more. But you can see there's still stuff, you can still see part of the screen pretty much everywhere. So what you're going to want to do is go to mask expansion, and just one by one, you can use your arrow key to make it a little bit bigger, maybe 4 pixels bigger, so that we don't see those little edges of the screen anywhere. It could be a little bit better, you could do a nicer job of the masking, but this will work. This is pretty decent. So now we can just click M once again, close it up, or M twice, and that'll bring the mask path up. So we just have this little keyframe here. We're gonna go all the way to the beginning, take a look, see if it's covered. It looks pretty good. So we can just place a little keyframe there, and then go all the way to the end, and just go a little bit at the time, and you can see that this is starting to come off. So we go all the way to the end, and you can see that it's definitely not perfect. So you can see that it's not on the spot where you want it to be. So you go to the end, make a keyframe, and then zoom in, and you're just gonna kind of drag your mask, drag the points back to where they are. So you're gonna want to center it on the line, and then just make the whatever adjustments you need to make this look better, and then just kind of move your keyframes so that they are properly covering up the edges of the TV. Obviously you can see it's a little, since we expanded the mask, it's a little bit bigger than the actual pen tool strokes. That's good. It's just basically cheating a little bit just to make sure you're covering up the screen properly. And then yeah, you can just kind of keep doing that until you are completely covered the screen once again. So obviously I'm just doing a rough little quick version. Obviously if you're doing it yourself, you might want to spend a little bit more time on the masking, but for me that's not really that important. So just look it up, look at your keyframes, and then you want to go between these, maybe go halfway in between and see if it's still on. It's not, so you can see at the top there's a little bit of work that needs to be done. You just make another keyframe, come back in here, and adjust your mask. And you're going to keep doing that until it is pretty perfect. Alright, so now that our mask is pretty well synced up, there's still a little bit of rough edges and stuff that I wouldn't recommend you doing. Maybe put a few more pen strokes in yours, since you're trying to be a little more precise than I am. I'm not going to use this for anything. But you can see we have our screen replaced. Now, this doesn't work just like this, obviously. Like, this is just like a blue screen. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our replace thing, or you can just double click the layer like we have before. And you can see we have our little screen here. So basically whatever we put on this screen, I'm just going to delete the solid so it's not blue anymore. Whatever we put here is going to show up on our TV screen. Obviously there's nothing, so it just shows the normal TV screen. So I have this nice little overlay that is just kind of like a pattern of the ghost logo. So what I'm just going to do is kind of make that the right size, make sure it's big enough. And I'm just going to use that as kind of like a background for what I'm going to do. I use this, it's a pretty common background of mine. So I'm just going to position it in position 1, move it over this way, and we'll make that position 2 all the way at the end. So now I just have this little background of the moving ghost logo. That's kind of cool. Actually, I'll make it a little bit bigger. That way it gets some vertical movement in there as well. So now I just have this little movement of the ghost logo. That's kind of cool. And you can see it just kind of moves and scrolls along on the screen the way I wanted to. Now, if I wanted to put some text here or something, I can do pretty much whatever I want. So maybe like some text. Like this is some pretty trash text, to be honest, but whatever. Green's tutorial. Doesn't have to be too crazy, but I'm gonna have it pop in right over here. 10 frames. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Make this a little bit bigger. Pop up to like 190, and then 0. Come back over here. Add some rotation or something. I don't know, whatever you guys want to do with your text. This is the part that is pretty much up to whoever wants to do it. Go like that, maybe that works. And then bam, it just kind of pops up. Green's tutorial. We could do something at the end to make it disappear or something like that. I don't know, maybe do like a wipe. This is another thing for another tutorial. We don't really need to be worrying about this too much. Okay, so now we have the text. It just kind of comes in, disappears, something kind of cool. It's not, I spent like 2 minutes doing this. We can go back and we can see that it'll do that. It'll pop up. We can play it and press 0 on the numpad to quickly RAM preview our thing, and it'll play it for us here in a second. Okay, so it just plays. Just, you know, kind of cool, nothing too crazy. Obviously, you can get a lot more in depth with this. This is just like a really rough thing that I made in a few minutes. Green's tutorial. You could put like an intro on a screen. You can do a lot of stuff. If you have like a clip, you could put your clip. The clip could play on the screen. You could do a bunch of really cool stuff with this. Better than just my Green's tutorial introduction thing. But anyway, so we have this little example. It looks good, but there's a few more things you can do too. So in the Sapphire plugins, if you have the Sapphire plugins, there's a thing called TV damage. And basically what you can do is you can drag this on and it'll create like a cool, like old-timey TV effect. You can kind of mess with like how much you want it to be, just a little bit, like maybe it's just like 0.2. You could turn it all the way up to like 1, and that would be kind of ridiculous. I think that's a bit much, but just like a 0.2, maybe 0.3, something like that. And now when you play it, you can see it looks even more like a TV. You can mess with all the settings. You can do whatever you want. Like obviously it doesn't have to be just like this. You can mess with the reception. You can mess with literally all these different effects that have to do with the old-timey TV look to maybe make it better. But yeah, there's just tons of different stuff you can do. What you're doing essentially is just motion tracking this layer, putting a mask on it, making sure that it covers up the screen, and with that you can be as creative as you want. You can make this into like literally anything that you can think of. Make sure that if you guys enjoyed this video, you leave a like and drop a comment of what you want to see in the next editing tutorial. If we get a bunch of likes, I'll definitely keep on doing these. I know you guys love these videos. You always tell me to make more of them, and I'm really bad about it, but hopefully I can get in a pattern of consistently making them for you once again. Shout out to Hayden, my editor. He made this video. He cut about 21 minutes of footage into whatever you guys are seeing now. So yeah, thank you, Hayden. You're amazing. I appreciate you. And yeah, I guess I'm gonna go play some CSGO. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Like I said, leave a fucking like. Peace out, dudes.